My name is Scott Shakster. I'm the precision agronomist with Seaman Crop Consulting. And like Lauren said, we're also a crop metrics dealer. A little bit about what we're doing here today. I know a lot of you as growers are standing here and you're just like I was 6 years ago. And I actually have a quick story. We'll just call this guy Jeff for intensive purposes. Jeff looked at me one day and he said, "What do you think of these probes?" And this was 6 years ago. And I said, "Well, we're starting to put them in the ground." And I was skeptical just like he was. But over 6 years and a lot of work, and we found that they're really accurate. And these things really do work. So, and Jeff's right there with me now. Over 6 years, you can see a grower picks up on it. And it's just something he jumped out there and tried, and so did we. And here we are 6 years later with a couple hundred of them in the ground at any time. So really and honestly, guys, the probe's really, it's not going to be worth anything unless you put it in the ground and get started. And that's the first step, is you committing to using the technology. We want you to put the technology out there and let us guide you on how to use it. If we don't get started though, we can't. So how does it work? Well, or what does it do? It's all about timing. Even on small wells, big wells, any well in between, okay, it's all about timing, when you can start, when you need to stop, and when it's time to shut off. If we are better with our timing, we get a deeper root system. We use more of the deep nutrients. Deeper roots equal better yields. And then at the end of the season, we can shut off a little bit earlier and save some of our moisture for another crop another time. And that's all the things that this probe will help us do. Some important factors. Having someone that's knowledgeable is a must. You must have someone that knows what they're doing and where to place it and things like that. It all really starts with grower input, to be honest with you. First thing we do is we meet with our grower and we determine what best fits his needs and where he wants to go with the probe. We need to know everything we can possibly know about every piece of ground that we might put a probe on. Okay, we take into consideration the EM sled data, the EC data, and over here on this this next one here, Ian DeWall will show you a little bit about the Sled Technology. So basically, we take the EM map, we take a slope map that shows the different slopes in the field. We take what you know as a grower, we combine all that information, we can put it in a computer, and it shows us where the very best spot in the field is. And it's like Jonathan said earlier, location's everything with the probe. We want to make sure that we put it in the exact right spot. You think that we're using this rod over here, we're using something that's that small to make a determination on 120, 240 acres. So we have to be right. And that's something that we take very seriously and take a lot of pride in. Okay, once the probe is in, I'm going to show you here in just a little bit how easily this one goes in. Then it's all about connecting to the equipment. It's all electronic. It goes to the cloud puts it back to our website platform. And our website platform is very, very easy to understand and use. We even have an app. And later on, if you want to come around and look at some of this, we'll show it to you. The app shows exactly where your lines are, and we use our knowledge as agronomists to put those lines where they need to be. It really is simple as keeping your moisture in between the lines. It's really that simple. We don't want to make it any more complicated than that right there. And then what we do once we have it in the ground, we actually go around and visit the crop once a week. We visit every field. We figure the crop stage, we figure how much moisture's in the ground based off what the graph is telling us. And then we write a report, type a report, and we give it to the grower whatever fashion they want it. Some guys like their stuff text to them, some like email, some like it hand delivered, paper copy. So we try to tailor make that. But that is a very key piece. If we don't come around and show you what's going on with the probe every week, there's not much use in using it unless you're very diligent with it. So we feel like that's a really important part of what we do. Installation. Okay, so basically This probe over here is already installed. It's in the ground. I like to bury my probe about 2 inches below the soil surface. It's located roughly right there. And this may sound kind of strange, but whenever I install a probe or we install a probe, we like to make it look like a helicopter swooped down, shoved it in the ground and left. We don't want to leave anything, no trace left behind, just the probe and that's it. It's very crucial that you get it in between plants and don't damage anything. So we take a lot of care and effort in doing that kind of installation. So this one's already in the ground, it's already transmitting. So what I would do is I come out, I find my spot, I put down my tripod. The tripod sucks down against the ground and allows you to drill a perfectly straight vertical hole using this drill bit. Ours is what's called a dry fit, and you can probably see that that probe is tapered. It's bigger on the top than it is on the bottom, so is the drill bit. So we drill down into the soil and we put all this stuff up. I'm not going to burden you with that, that's just part of it. Once we get the hole drilled, the tripod comes out of the way. And then the probe just sits right down in there. I'd like to draw your attention. You can see that each sensor on there, the dirt from earlier having it in the ground shows where each sensor is. There's 9 sensors in this probe, 1 every 4 inches. We're going to set it down there. Now as I go deeper, it's going to push harder and harder. Right there, I can barely push that. That means that it's wedged into the soil and it's actually become a part of the soil profile. That way we know the water's not going to run down beside it. We're not going to get any erroneous readings. And if we do get readings we don't like, we will come and move it. We want to make sure it's perfect. So that's how it wedges into the soil. It hooks into the AgSense box, and then that's what we have. A couple other things. You know, in the 90s, Lauren and the other agronomists, we used to use what was called gypsum blocks. Anybody ever heard of that? And you actually had to go around and hook into them with a machine, and it told you the moisture levels. So we've graduated from that in the 90s all the way up to this technology. So we're no stranger to water management, and we're very excited about the new technology that's around when it comes to moisture management. We feel like this has made us better agronomists overall. It's made us make more qualified and better decisions, without a doubt. This is really only a portion of what Crop Metrics offers. We have a platform for water management over here, crop modeling, as well as variable rate irrigation. We're going to be here all day, so we'd like for you to come and talk to us about that as well. But the probe is the focus today. I guess the biggest thing that I want to drive home to you, the technology is great, but it's only as good as the people behind it running the technology and helping making the decisions that you need to make to grow a successful crop and get the most bushels out of every dollar you put out there. Questions?
How do you prevent swing through with the drop?
Swing through, okay, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I haven't had a whole lot of problems. And what he's talking about, when the drops come through, they catch on this. Occasionally it'll take that and lean it over. So what I would do is go out and move my post over a few feet.
What I'm referring to is when that drop hangs up on one corn stalk and then it swings through.
Oh, across the probe. Yeah, that has happened before. I haven't had it happen a lot. If I suspect that, and that's where the weekly visits are really important. If I do suspect that, I'm probably going to go out to the field and see why I'm not registering any more water than I am. And he's making a really good point, because as that pivot goes around, it can catch on the same corn stalk every single time and swing across the same spot every time. Sometimes it's as easy as taking out a plant and making sure it doesn't swing through there. It doesn't happen as often as you would think, but it does happen occasionally. Worst case scenario, we go move the probe. So, good question. What else? Yes, sir.
How's the installation in sand?
Installation stand, it's actually easier in sand and in sand. And you might think that it wouldn't be as tight, but once you get it in and we water a couple times, it's actually tighter in the sand sometimes than clay. Because normally towards the end of the season, the clay will begin to dry out and crack a little bit, and so the probe's going to pull out of there a lot easier. Once we discontinue irrigation for the year, the sand, it almost bonds to that probe and makes it pretty difficult to get out of the ground sometimes. Did I answer your question?
You haven't had any trouble with like how to keep the dry sand from falling down the hole?
Oh no, not really. Because the thing is this is just a little bit longer.
Okay.
So we actually go past the bottom of the hole. So if there is a little bit of slough on the side, it'll actually push down to the bottom of the hole. That's a good question. Thank you. Anything else?
Do you have any tools for removing the sensor?
Yes.
Removing the probe?
So at the end of the season, and that's one thing that I didn't say a whole lot about, we take a lot of pride in making sure we are out of your way as a grower. We don't want you to go through the field in the combine and either eat the probe or have to cut around it. It's really important to us to get it out of the ground. So it's real simple to get out of the soil. This deal just locks onto it. And like I said, it's wedged. So once you break the initial vacuum, it just pulls right out of the ground. So I'll go ahead and pull it here real quick for you. Any other questions while I'm doing this? Air gaps do have an effect on the readings, and that's a good question. And what sometimes we have to actually go move a probe. But an air gap will show erroneous readings. It'll show a spike, an uncommon spike. It can also collapse and show excessive water incorporation as well. Obviously, I've put that probe in that hole twice now, so it's not as tight as it would have been before. So, any other questions? Come by and see us. We have a lot more information we can tell you.